during calendar 2023, which is linked to 2024. So it's a very complicated situation, but I'm feeling pretty optimistic for everybody who works independently is being self-employed.
You put it as number one. I want to start off with it because I think I'm actually wearing my original 6 hat for the NHL.
Okay.
I'm a Red Wings fan. Die hard.
The specific news, in case you haven't heard the earthquake, is that Department of Labor Secretary, which is confirmed by the Senate, Marty Walsh, recently of Boston, is heading to National Hockey League Players Association, which is the union of the pros who are out on the ice. Instead of being just a beggar for $200,000 a year, he's moving up to $3 million a year. Not bad money, $250,000 a month. You'd have to look at this from a lot of different perspectives. Most importantly, I think it probably says that people feel Walsh failed. He did not get the PRO Act through. He was Trumpka's guy, was brought in. Rich Trumpka died of congestive heart failure. Marty was left, and without Trumpka, nothing went forward, and Marty was unable to deliver. You have to think that that's the most important thing. And you have to conclude with Marty gone, who else is there? And everybody scratches their heads. There really isn't anybody else there.
What about this Sue, who's going to be the interim one? Because I was reading something that she might just become the new Marty Walsh.
Julie Sue managed I think it was the Unemployment Compensation Bureau within the California executive branch, and she was responsible for that astounding, was it $7 or $8 billion worth of fraudulent paper? It could have been 28 billion. I mean, it just enormous amounts of taxpayer money were utterly wasted, lost, gone, squandered, stolen, whatever, in California under her watch. She seems utterly incompetent to get any kind of administrative job done. Almost anyone in your podcast audience would do a better and more meticulous job than Julie Sue.
Well, they'd probably need a little training.
You got to ask, what training does Julie Sue have on the job?
I mean, I guess, that those kind of questions always come to mind with a record like that. I mean, I know it's politics. I know it can get ugly, but why is she even in a position? Like, why are they looking like she's good? Let's get her.
What we're getting is union socialism, and union socialism relies utterly on people who are very dependent flacks and will do exactly as they're told. Marty is a dependent person and did what he was told. His whole career was get along to go along. Julie Sue is so clueless, she can't keep her hands on $8 billion without somebody stealing it. The heads of these agencies are not capable people. They don't represent the people they're really regulating. They're doing things that are utterly nonsensical, taken from the perspective of what the language of the law is. And they're really, I hate to use the term, because it hurts us, they're freelancing it. They're making it up as they go along, which is much worse than freelancing.
Yeah, there needs to be another word for that.
Julie Sue is...
They're winging it.
Winging it. Yes. All right, we'll use that term. Thank you for the grammar, the vocabulary. Julie Sue is utterly dependable. She will do, when Gavin Newsom needed the money to just go out and get spent, she managed to do that. She has no credentials of any sort that would qualify her for this amount of responsibility. None.
But she will be an interim one, right? I mean,
yes, she will be an interim one. You have to admire the unions for finding a great, comfy way to look like Marty's moving up. Marty he will not solve any particular problem that the hockey players have. He's not that kind of guy. He will let things roll. If they want to strike, he'll let them strike. He's not going to come up with a new strategy. He didn't do that as mayor of Boston, where you have a lot of room. He just let the buildings be built so that the construction guys could have a real feast, a pig out on inflated construction contracts in Boston. Fine, we needed the buildings. I'm good with that, but it was not a lesson in Marty's vision, leadership, problem-solving ability. They've also given up, apparently, on the PRO Act as legislation, which is a wise thing to give up because they have House Republicans now who would have to pass whatever they write as a bill. And that is, the Republicans in labor are highly capable and very energized. And I'm speaking specifically about Representative Dr. Virginia Fox from North Carolina and Representative Rick Allen from Georgia. And these people are absolutely on, they've got the scent. They're like, they're going to be dogs on the birds, and they are going after people who are hurting the workforce, defined as including us, not just union members. So here we've got Marty Walsh, who was supposed to get something done, didn't get it done. They've given up on doing it, or they would have found somebody more glamorous, maybe an ex-legislator or somebody, to come in and do this. No, they're going to Julie Sue. They're just signaling. State of the Union address says we're gonna pass the PRO Act. Everybody goes, oh my goodness, here it comes again. No, that's called fighting retreat, where you have a couple of guys with loaded guns making it look like the Army's still there. Meanwhile, the Army's disappearing in the other direction. Unions are going out to work on the 2024 cycle, and they are going to try to get everything they can through administrative means, but not through legislation.
I didn't even, I'm going to be honest, I didn't even know we were still talking about the PRO Act as it is.
Nobody else is.
I know, but I thought that it was more, I mean, it was maybe like still that same theme, but I thought that the idea of the PRO Act as it's titled even kind of had dissipated. And
it's a flag that, it's like a fallen flag, really. They're picking it up. It's muddy. Nobody thinks anything of it. Biden waves it because it hides his retreat.
Yeah.
If he didn't mention it, they'd all say, oh, he's given up on it. But he mentions it. So, I mean, words are cheap, particularly in Washington. So I think that's all over. Well, that's good, because what's going to happen then we know that everything that's an important legislation, important decision and regulation by the administrative agencies, all of the cabinet agencies, DOL, has to have a home somewhere in specific enabling legislation. Things that they're doing are all outside the legislation. So it's all unconstitutional. So that the strategy becomes pass an ugly rule and have them sue us to get their constitutional rights back. But with labor topics, which is what we're talking about here, and the Education and Workforce Committee, now renamed, focusing on workforce, we're in the workforce. People are going to find themselves spending most of their administrative times preparing for and attending their own investigative hearing. They're going to be interrogated by the labor. Those are hard hearings, and these are, if you've seen Jim Jordan at work in justice, those are difficult questions, carefully prepared to get the information that people are looking for, the kinds of things that we're looking for. How come you're doing this? There's 60 million people want to be self-employed. Why are you trying to stop it? And 15 million people in the audience are watching every word that the person says. So it's difficult. It puts them in a tizzy. They have to spend a lot of time preparing. They have to consult with lawyers. They have to try to not get into any more trouble than they're already in. That slows down all of the regulation. DOL is not likely to push through nearly as rapidly reversion to the old way of doing it in this reinterpretation of the court cases. And
I'm an independent voter, but I'm not sitting here preaching one side or the other. This isn't a political show, but there's no way to avoid the politics of it. So we gotta talk about this. But some of the changes are for the better, for sure, in my opinion. I mean,
if you're independent, you like balance in government.
Yeah.
And that means you can't give all of the levers to one side or the other. I'm with that.
Yeah.
And
But it was skewed way too far the other way.
yes,
The House is now majority Republican.
yes, slim majority,
But enough to what should people expect from the House now? What will this slim majority change?
Two things will change dramatically. The House will stop any legislation that actively advances President Biden's personal agenda. It won't pass. The Senate can pass things. The Democrats can propose bills. The Republicans can propose bills. None of that is going to become legislation. We're going to have basically almost no legislating except for maybe naming bridges and stuff like that until 2025. Those who fear particular types of legislation right now, we're among them, can rest easy that it isn't going to happen. Not that way. The second thing they can do is they can, in the majority in Congress, in the House, can investigate misbehavior, fraud, inexcusable acts, things that are illegal, almost anything they want. They can investigate policy. They can talk about talking. All of that will bring many more things to light than have come to light in the last 4 years, when the other party, usually with substantial majorities, has been in charge of the House, and at the same time the Senate. So I look for this is actually really good for independent contractors, all of us.
Yeah.
And the reason is, into this delicate balance between the parties that you as an independent, really, admire.
Admires a stretch.
Maybe
Okay.
maybe you rely on it. Maybe you rely on it for protection. That's
yeah.
The weight. The 60 million individuals now mean a whole lot more than they have at any time in the past, because if any of them at all get more active than they have been, and they make their opinions known to Congress and to media, friendly media if they can find them, or even to unfriendly media if they can convert them or impress them or slow them down. All of that makes the individuals, which is what we are in particular, we're very independent individuals, makes us much more important as a force. Now you got to be sure we're more of a latent force, this Friday, the 10th of February. But if we decided that we can exercise our own independent veto on stuff we don't like, and we tell our rep, and the reps talk, the representatives in Congress talk, tell your senator, the senator will be aware. We will tip the scales. 60 million people is an enormous number of people. That's one reason we can confirm why they changed the name of this committee. They wanted to welcome our perspective as independents, and they renamed it from labor to workforce.
Yep.
We're a third of the workforce.